Hey everyone, welcome to the AMP session today. Today we are joined with Jason from South Australia. Jason, welcome to AMP.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Fantastic to have you. Just before we launch into our chat with you today, I just want to remind everyone the AMP sessions are a mixture of interviews with people, sharing skills, doing things that will help you and assist you in your business. And if it's not a specific skill share, we want to share stories as well.
10 o'clock Tuesday.
And I think that we'll just turn
Trying to make
Tony
that.
off. There we go. Yeah. So Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I've been in the real estate industry now for, I think, 11 years. Had a bit of a mixed bag before getting in. So initially, I was actually, my sport as a kid was always swimming. So I progressed to do some swimming coaching and was very fortunate enough to move to the Gold Coast and coach with some of the best coaches in Australia. Then I moved back to South Australia, to my hometown, which is actually not Port Lincoln, it's Port Augusta. And at which point I got into the finance industry. An opportunity opened up in Port Lincoln to move here to manage the office we had in Port Lincoln, which I did. Loved Port Lincoln, didn't really love the job anymore. And an opportunity popped up to start in real estate. Like I said, about 11 years ago. The funny part is that when I went for the job interview, the boss at the time was stuck on either myself or another person, and he couldn't decide which one to employ. So he actually employed both of us, and the other guy is the big man himself, James Stacey.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so take us back, transitioning from coaching to finance to real estate. What were the transferable skills and what did you find that was completely different?
Yeah, look, communication, I think, is probably the number one thing with every role I've taken on board. I do enjoy talking and I like meeting new people, and I think communication is probably one of the biggest factors. So they're all service jobs that I've done. So the other thing that I try and do is I try and align myself with the best people. So like I said, when I went to the Gold Coast for swimming coaching, I was 21 at the time. And the club I was with they won the national championships that year. And I think it was back in 2008. So you can do the maths on how old I am. 2008, I think we had like 8 or 9 swimmers from that swimming club actually go to the Beijing Olympics that year. So it was a very, very successful swimming club, and the coaches there were phenomenal. And it wasn't just the coaches that you learn from, it was actually the attitude of the swimmers as well, because these guys are top performing athletes, and it really shows you what it takes to, I swam competitively. I was pretty handy. But I was never at that level, and you look and you're like, well, this is obviously why. Like one of the guys who won a bronze medal, Michael Phelps, beat him in the 100 fly. Like he would literally have 1 beer every 3 months, and that was his treat. And I'm like, wowzers, like have a beer on a Tuesday for a treat. A big day. So the sacrifice these people would make to get where they needed to go was quite. I found it quite unreal to as a 21-year-old to start to appreciate that. And then going into finance, I've always been good with maths, and I was studying that externally at the time and got offered a job opportunity through that. And I probably wasn't overly good at it, but very good at the people person, which is why they brought me down here to manage the office here. So a lot better at actually dealing with the people. So and then obviously moving into real estate, communication is the number one thing we do, and definitely helped me along with that.
Take us back to that first few months that you were in real estate. What did it go exactly how you thought, or was it completely different than what you thought?
It was terrible. It was terrible. So like I said, James Stacey started at the same time. He actually started a month before me, I believe. And he went to Adelaide. So Adelaide's like 7-hour drive away. So he went there, did his course in the classroom, came back. And then after he came back, then I came on board. But at the time, Reese had just introduced the online course. And I believe I was the first person to do it in South Australia. and it was terrible. It was clunky. It took a lot longer than I thought it would. Nothing was sinking in. So the study side of it was very hard. Working in a team, it was a really good team. So we had like my boss at the time, he's a really good guy. And obviously we had James there. We had another young lad around our age who was also there. And we all kind of worked as his selling assistants. So it wasn't too bad being brought on, but it was a bit of a crash course. So very, very fast. And then not long after that, went out and become my own selling person in my own right. I was debit credit, so I had the security of getting an income, but also at the time probably got into that way before I was ready. So every month it was kind of like I was in debt, and that will happen for a couple of months, and then I'll be even, then I'm in debt again, and then I'll get slightly in front, and then I'm in debt again. So it probably wasn't the best opportunity. And then do you want me to keep going about the real estate?
Mate, you keep going. That's enjoyable.
Yeah, so
it's enjoyable hearing about your pain.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. And quite the contrast, James Stacey, who started at the same time, he's got a gift that is just phenomenal, and like he works harder than anyone else. Well, probably not anyone else. I think Christian in Adelaide and Jance as well. Like I don't know when they find time to sleep, but like James has got a skill. He works hard at it. So he was a natural from the get-go. So here I am comparing myself to him, and he was probably 6 months in, the number one guy in the office, and there I was floundering around. But in the end, I was probably within 3 years, I was selling anywhere between 20 and 30 homes a year, which is reasonable. But on the debit credit, and this is the bit that if you haven't ever done that, EXP is phenomenal. So obviously you take GST off whatever you sell, then the principal would take a 9% marketing fee off the top, and then from there I was getting 40%. So I think when I was and then like you take out all your other expenses, so you'd write $200,000 a year and may only take home like 75. So yeah. It hurt. So and then I probably a few things, my values probably didn't align with that boss. Like I said, he's a really, really good guy. As a business person, we don't quite align as well as I would have liked. And I got an opportunity to enter into another office. And the idea there was to buy that business. So it was our biggest competitor. And she approached me and said, look, I'm looking to retire in the next few years. I'd like to get you on board and eventually buy the business off me. So it was probably perfect timing for me. So I moved from where I was to the new office, and that was a real eye-opener. So I took on more of a management role within that office, and actually saw a lot of the stuff behind the scenes. Like Jance talks about it all the time, how he walked before he opened the front door to walk in, it was always take that big breath and who's going to have a whinge today. It was always, everyone likes to release their stress to the boss. So that was a real eye-opener for me. And then when James was, like I said, James and I, he's probably one of my best mates. So he was talking to me about heading out on his own. And I suggested he join a rival company, like independent. And then I think Bjorn gave him a call and pretty much signed him up on the spot to EXP, which I didn't even know EXP was in Australia at that stage. So James was like, this is what I'm doing. And he's kind of asking me to come along for the ride. And I'm like, look, man, I love the idea. I love the concept, but I'm here to, see where this is going to go. And then, 12 months later, I probably didn't really see myself running an office and jumped onto EXP, and has turned out to probably be the best decision I've made in my employment life.
That's a really interesting story, and it's funny when you're a sales agent or you're a sales rep, and then you somehow find yourself in a management spot. your eyes get opened up and you're like, oh.
Exactly right. And it was really interesting because, like I said, I've done a lot of coaching. I've done a lot of swimming coaching. I've done football coaching. I like, even when I first moved to Port Lincoln, a little bit of a name drop. Like, I mentored Kyle Chalmers for my first 6 months here before he moved off to Adelaide. So it was that role was something I've always enjoyed, and I've always said if there was more money in coaching, I'd do that.
Yeah.
So I thought owning a business would be really right up my alley, and you always got your rose-colored glasses on. You sit there and go, well, I get to empower everybody, have meetings, get everyone all excited about themselves. But then you're there, and it's not that at all. Everyone is, you're like the sounding board to everyone's problems, and it's not just work problems; it's personal problems and all the rest of it. So it definitely was a huge eye opener for me, and not only that, but also the finance side of things as well. So it was, I've got a really good relationship with my old principal. Now she's sold to somebody else, and she's just asked me to sell her house. So I've got a very good relationship with her. But yeah, it was, she showed me the depth and the darkness of what it's like running a business and actually trying to keep the lights on. And it's scary stuff.
Yeah, it's a completely different it's a different animal when you're in that management role, and you are thinking about who's making all these photocopies, who's doing all this, who's doing all that.
Black and white, guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it. Hey, I just want to transition now. When you are making that move and you are selling real estate and it's a totally different thing, how did you go about starting off? Like, how did you get your leads? How did you how did that all work for you?
Yeah, are you talking like way back when, or
what you can dive in wherever you want, but like you're in a small area, you don't have, it's not like you've got 2 million population there that if you burn a lead, you can just go to the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely. So look, I was probably very lucky when I first started. The company that employed me when I first started was the biggest, and I just worked as a selling agent. Like I said, it was only for about 6 months. I probably needed 12 to 18. But it was, the leads would come in, and the boss was getting plenty of leads. Once I left there, I knew what I was doing. So it's quite, for me, I think the number one thing you're going to do as a new agent, and is align yourself with a good buddy, someone that knows what they're doing in your area. I was pretty lucky when I joined the other firm. I had a non-compete clause I signed, so I couldn't touch any of my old clients. But I was lucky enough to have access to a guy that's just retired now. He was probably the number 1, number 2 selling agent in Port Lincoln for the 20 years he did it. So he had a lot of people. So it was just a matter of giving those people a call, old appraisals, old sales, and just going through those lists. So if you're asking me what advice I'd give to somebody that is starting out, that's exactly what it would be. And is to buddy up with someone and just, all their dead leads, just give them just ask if you can follow them up. Most people are pretty accepting with stuff like that, I assume. I've never had anyone.
I'm going to press you, Jason. If you didn't have that older person to lean on and look after their leads, if you were in a town your size and you had to start from scratch and you didn't have that, because we do have people that are watching or will watch the replay that are in that situation. They might have left a brand, they got a non-compete clause, they've lost their database or whatever, and they got to start afresh. How would you go about it?
This is even easier, I think. So door knocking's not for me, and I know it's so good for so many people. I've done I list a property, I do the 10 by 10 by 20, which was probably 3 by 3 by 6 to be honest. But I don't mind doing that. But cold door knocking is not for me, and I think that's probably the number one thing I can say to anybody starting out. It's just, if you don't like it and it doesn't feel natural, don't do it. Find what does work. What worked for me is I've got a phone list I've got like lots of friends. But I've got a phone list, and whether it's just, and I think it's just talking to people. And James and I were having this discussion just last week. Like, he was for his standard, he was in a bit of a hole, a bit of a rut. And he goes, I've been really lucky lately. I'm like, you haven't been lucky, mate. You've gone and busted your ass, pardon my language, and made the phone calls and got it. So I would start with not even asking for business, just really ease yourself into it. Have you got any carpenter friends, any builder friends? Give them a call. Oh, hey, Chad, Jason here. How's the building going? Like, have you got people signed up for the next? Like, just get a feel of what the building market's doing. If you don't have any builder friends, talk to an electrician, talk to your tradies. There's plenty of other people. Talk to accountants. I don't think, you don't need to, and just ask them questions. You don't need to be there going, shit, I need to know all my stats. I need to know what the market's like. Just give them a call and have a chat. And I think that will go a long way. And then, at the end of the chat, say, oh, look, have you done any renovations for anyone looking to sell? Like, throw that out there. And if they have, they'll let you know. And then if anything does pop up within the next week or two, they're going to give me your name as well. The issue is, in a month's time, they'll forget about the conversation. So you kind of have to make sure you keep front of mind. But I think that's probably the easiest thing to do is just talk with your friends. I would say, like, probably 5 to 6 sales a year for me are just like mates that I keep in contact with, that we just chat. How's life going? How's your business going? Have you got, we've got one builder here that signed up 13 builds at the start of COVID. I'm like, give him a call. How's that going? How many you knocked over? Are you still signing them up? So, and you get, and just by talking to those people, you get a cold face insight of what that industry is doing.
Yeah, and I think in a smaller area, that's even more important, because you're coming alongside of people, you're connecting, you're building those relationships, you're keeping them going. And as you say, for the next 5 to 10 days, they'll remember who you are. Day 11, got no idea. There was someone rang me a couple of weeks ago. Who was that?
Day 14, give him a call again.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And tell me, what role has marketing played in you being successful in a small town?
Yeah, look, I've played with lots of different types of marketing, where I've had people get we can do auto evaluations with RP data and different bits of that. I've done the AI assistant, where they'll come in and give you valuations. And look, all that's pretty, like, it all works and gives you lots of data to use. But I've never found it overly successful. I find what works best is probably when I was doing like market updates every week. And I've been a bit slack on that of recent, but I was doing them every week, and I'd have people, and I'd just throw
Was that digitally, or was it written or video or?
Video. So I'll do a video market update, and it would be like, I use CapCut because my mate Chris Jansen told me how easy it is. So that was, so I was using that. So it'll have all the writing of what I was saying underneath. And it was really like, I just went, and it was so basic. It barely went for a minute. It was just, there was this many sales last week, this many new listings this last week, average sale price. And then I'd throw something, I'd say, look, average sale price this time last year was $100,000 less. That's what it's done. Or the difference between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom house at the moment is $140,000. So, if you're looking to spend 30 grand on doing an extra bedroom extension, it's probably well worth it at the moment. So, I'd have my standard 4 or 5 things that I would discuss every time, and then a bit of what I found pretty useless trivia, but people loved it. And I think that worked really, really well. I'd get, and nothing.
And did you send that as a sponsored post out, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now my mate Bory's son, he showed me how to target it into where I want to do it. And all these are on past training sessions, so watch them. And yeah, I was getting like thousands of views. But what would happen is people would be talking to me down the street. Oh, saw your video, it was fantastic. And I don't love being in front of camera. I don't like having that kind of attention on me. I don't mind public speaking. I don't mind all that kind of stuff. But when it's focused on me and what I do, I get a bit self-conscious.
Yeah.
But it was good, and people appreciated it, and I think that's what you need to do. And remembering the fact that you don't throw a bit of marketing out and then you get 10 calls from people that want to list the property. That never happens. But it's just being front of mind for everyone.
Yeah. And I suppose if your personality is such that you don't want to be necessarily, front and center, it's sometimes a real challenge for people. I talk to agents all the time. Well, I'll get on video when I lose weight. I'll get on video when I grow taller. I'll get on video when I can speak more clearly. They have all this dialogue in their brain. What would your coaching tips be around that?
Oh, just do it, man. Like, it's for me, and so you got to find out what works. So I tried to copy what James Stacey was doing. I'm like, man, this guy's killing it. I'll do what he does. Now he posts coming soon, new listing, under contract, sold, settled. So 5 posts per property. He sells 70 properties. So that's 350 posts he's doing every year. I can't match that. So even by me copying exactly what he does, I'm getting a fifth of the ad. So you got to do, and once again, I'm a big fan of do what works for you. With a video camera, like you can do 100 takes, do it on your own. It doesn't need to be live. Get comfortable with it. I'm comfortable talking, and I don't mind the camera, so I will just go on about what I want to talk about. I know other people have where they got the writing on the screen and they can just read off that. So it's really easy to do it. But my tip is just to do it. Like, I've done it. I could probably still lose a few kilos, but I've done it 10 kilos heavier. I've done it as my weight now. I've done it when I'm skinnier. No one really cares. At the end of the day, people see you. Like, the camera, I don't think the camera adds 10 pounds. Like, no offense, you're fat, you're fat. Like, the video is of who you are. So just be authentic and just show it. If brush your hair, have a shave if you need to have a shave, like, look presentable, but just go and do it. And I think that's the fear. Everyone's so scared of starting, but once you start it and you just do your first one. You do your first one and you get all this praise. You're like, shit, I'm doing another one of those next week. Yeah. And then it happens really, really easy.
You get the positive dopamine hit, and away you go. What's happening in your marketplace right now?
Yeah, look, it's really, really interesting. So we've had this huge boom, but probably like a lot of other people have for a very long time. We've got Dashdot, which is an investment group that are buying pretty much, I would say, 60% of homes between 350 and 550 grand. So anything in that price range is selling really, really quick. The upper end, so anything over probably $800,000 has been really high end in Port Lincoln. But 12 months ago, they were disappearing. We're finding those homes are probably starting to slow down at the moment. Stock levels are really, really low across the board here. So we're finding that some of the homes are sticking around a little, like the stupid prices we were getting a while back aren't happening. Some properties are sticking around a little bit longer, but as a whole, the market's still moving. Like, the numbers look good because we're still getting a good price, and the days on market aren't that high because just limited stock coming on. So we are getting it's really interesting. Limited stock, but everything seems to be going well still.
Yeah. Okay. And if the market is going to be changing in your area, this is just kind of a question for you. What skills do you think you or an agent will need in the next 3 to 6 months in Port Lincoln?
Yeah, I think communication and consistency. I had a chat with Chris Jansen about this last week or the week before. He has an ice bath every freaking day. Like, I didn't tell him this, but
on purpose. On purpose.
Yeah, I know. He posted a video of it. I'm like, we'll never post a video because when this stops happening in a week, you look like a fool. Yeah. That was at Christmas. I think he got it for Christmas. He's still going. So yeah. I'm like, consistency is killing, man. So I think it's just like, get on the phones. So I'm actually going on leave, heading over to the Cook Islands next week. So I'm pretty pumped about that. And then I've already worked out when I get back, these are the people I'm going to call. These are the people I'm going to touch base with. And my goal is probably to make 30 to 50 phone calls a day for the first 2 weeks, and just to get like just to get back into it. And I think that's what you need to do. You're not going to pick up. It's a really interesting game, and I probably went early on. I always look for the really quick fix, and there is none. It's just be authentic and just keep doing the work. If you keep doing the work, what's the saying? That the harder I work, the luckier I am.
Yeah.
So I just think if you just keep making those phone calls, going past. So the phone calls I'm referring to are your tradies, your accountants, finance brokers. And also all your past appraisals. And I would also start calling a classic one that I always do when I will drive, when I can't think of a reason to call someone, because I think you'll always need a reason. I'll just give them a call and say, hey, Bob, drove past your house yesterday. How's it going? Like, enjoying it? So, I haven't driven past his house in 6 months. He could turn around and tell me it burned down. I'll be like, oh, whoopsie daisy. But, just to open up the conversation with something so simple, and it just gets the conversation going. Most people want to like you. So I think if you give them a call, they're going to chat and just keep chatting. Like I don't think I've ever made 100 phone calls for 2 weeks straight and didn't pick up at least 5 appraisals. Like you just got to do the work, and I'm guilty for it. Like I'm not perfect. Like James Stacey, he'll make the phone calls like week in, week out. That's what I mean. He's great. I'm not perfect. I don't do that. But when it comes to the crunch and you got to do it, and it will pay off.
So do you have like a standard I suppose activities that you do when you find things are getting a bit slow or changing? Or are you just mostly the calls?
Just calls, man. I think that's what it comes down to. There's, like I said, I don't love door knocking. I probably, because I am in a small town, I am very fortunate enough that everyone does. Well, I'd say 75% of people that live in Portland can know who I am.
Yep.
So I will make an extra effort to go out for coffee a few times a week, because I know people are going to want to have a chat, and I'll probably park a few hundred meters away from where I have to, just so you can walk past a few people. That's all pretty passive. But
do you do any print advertising?
No.
Yep.
I do sponsor a fair bit on Facebook. Like I said, those videos I was doing, like new listings. I do, and like solds, like testimonials. I try and get them up and sponsor them. So I try and be front of mind with those type of things. But like I'm not, and I was having this chat to James. Like all my business is basically, I don't think I've lost a listing in 12 months. Like I haven't gone up against someone and missed out, and it's because people are calling me that I know. But where he and I differ, he's that attraction agent where people are calling him for these appraisals, and that's not happening for me. So I think it's just a matter of, and the reasons are probably because his first 5 years in real estate, he did everything perfect, and I was lazy. And now he's reaping the benefits, whereas now I'm still having to work. So now it's just a matter of everything I do well. I make sure when I do an open inspection, I make sure I make all those phone calls. When I talk to my vendors, I try and do it at least 2 times a week. I know some people touch base every day, but I do it like a couple of times a week. And I just think you get the communication right, you do the basics right, you talk to enough people, like everything just starts to happen around you.
Yeah, I think that takes a while to learn as an agent. Some agents you see, they come in and they hit the ground running. You find out that they've come from a career where it's really just a transfer of skills. And then other agents come where they were an employee and their boss told them, do this, do this, do this, or whatever. They're not used to being self-managed. And it is a big learning curve.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's also hard to understand. Like I feel like I'm preaching a little bit, like make your phone calls, and you sit there and go, well, and I did this 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm like, well, you don't understand my marketplace. Like it's not like that. I don't have
that won't work in my area.
Yeah, I don't have 20 people I can call, and I'm like, but everyone does. Like it just think of a reason to make that call. I've got a couple of mates who, you know, we've all got kids now, so I don't see everyone as much as I used to, but, you know, they bought a business a month ago. Like, I spoke to him last week. How's that going? Like, what are the challenges? And it didn't even have to be about real estate, but I'm just like, just make any phone call is where I'm at. Like, obviously the right phone calls, like go through your past appraisals, go through anyone that sold probably in the last 3 years or further back. They're probably going to look at selling soon. Like, touch base with them. Yeah, just offer a free appraisal. Like, a free appraisal, I hate that, but offer an updated appraisal. Like, it's just, I think that's what you need to do, and the calls are there to be made. You just got to make them.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Just as we finish off, what are maybe 3 tips that you would give? And you gave a couple just before, which were brilliant, and you might want to just use those as well. But if you were starting the whole thing over again, and you could give yourself some advice to be successful in a small rural community, what would you be saying to yourself?
Yeah, so I think that the first one I would get a mentor or a buddy or whatever you like to call them. Like I said, James and I bounce off each other. I talk to him nearly every day. He literally lives like 300 meters that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you need that, and it's not just James. Like, I've called Chris Jansen for advice. I've called Bjorn for advice. I've called Marco for advice. I've called Buri for advice, and not one of them had an issue. Marco was even on annual leave and still said, "Oh, look, mate, like, just give me a second." I'm like, no, don't worry about it. He goes, no, I've got time. Like, everyone's more than happy to help. So just find someone. If it's in a similar marketplace, I think that's better. But if not, just find someone you can bounce ideas off, because you can get lost on your own. So that's probably my number 1 piece of advice. Number 2 is, like, just talk to as many people as you can.
Can I ask, do you database quite religiously?
No.
Yep.
No. Look, I've got, I put all my contacts, or not all my contacts, I put all of the people that come through open inspections. They all, like, religiously, they will go where they need to go. My appraisals will go where they need to go. But and that's probably something I could work on a little bit better.
I was just curious. I didn't want to throw you off.
Yeah, but I use my phone. I'll put reminders in there, and even if like, if I've got someone that said they're thinking about selling in November. I've got, like I said, I'm heading away for 2 weeks. I've got they're on my list of people to call, and I love lists. I do lists, but I'm a manual list, so I can literally tick it off.
Yep.
So yeah, so 1, mentor; 2, communicate. And then the number 3, I think, is probably the most important, and that's just, like, be yourself. What works for you? Like I said, door knocking doesn't work for me, and I know people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars by door knocking, and I'm like, don't you change? Like, you keep doing what you do. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. I feel like, you know, I door knocked a neighbour's house around the corner because I could see her painting the fence, and I'm like, I've got like 100 buyers that would buy that place, and so I had a good reason to door knock, and I still felt awkward.
Yeah.
So for me, it's talking on the phone, talking face to face, make appointments. Like, just, you know, even if it's just coffee catch ups, whatever it is. Most service based industries don't mind an excuse to go and have a coffee, have a chat to your finance brokers, bank managers, accountants. Most of them will enjoy to have a break and have a coffee. So
it sounds like you use the method, ring to give, you know, like when you were just saying your mates just started a new business. That's a perfect time to ring them and say, how's it all going? If I'm meeting lots of people all the time in real estate. Well, who's your ideal client? You know, who can I refer to your business? Like, I don't know what that business was, but you know, there's very few small business owners that would receive a call from a real estate agent going, hey, I'd like to send some business your way. Tell me about your ideal client. And they'll say no. It's like, it's another reason to call.
Exactly right. And that's probably the other thing. I You know the sad like real estate car salesman, like you've got that that negative vibes about you, and you're always trying to get something. And I remember Tom Panos used to say, what was it, jab jab hook, like give him
Yeah.
something, give him something. I don't even like that. I'm like, just give, like just like you don't even need to ask. You don't have to ask for anything. Like
Yeah.
ask when the time's right. Like
Yeah.
have the kahunas to do that, which is something that some people don't. But just offer help. Like how can I help you? Like yeah, what kind of business you got? Like oh, I know this guy. Maybe give him a call. I know he's looking for for a mechanic, or how can I help? Or can you? I'll get my car serviced when it doesn't really need one, just to go and support. Like it's just little minor things. I had a friend that opened a coffee shop. I'm like, I want to buy 100 coffees, like, and I gave them out as vouchers for people. And he's like, I'll give you 10 free. I'm like, I don't want 10 free. And that was probably a bit of advice that an old guy gave me. He goes, nothing gives me more pride than going into a mate's shop and paying full price.
Yeah.
And it's that old concept where, oh, we're mates, can I have a discount? Like, nah, throw that away. We're mates. I want to support you in what you do, and they're gonna appreciate that, and you're gonna get a lot of love back from them in one way or another, rather than saying, "Hey, I'm doing this. What kind of discount you reckon you got?"
Yeah. I so love that. Jason, it's been wonderful chatting to you. I wrote down here your big takeaways: be authentic and do the work.
Yeah, spot on.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of AMP, and we wish you all the luck. First of all, for your holiday, going to the Cook Islands, and then when you get back, ripping back into it.
That's right. Thank you very much.